Hey guys, Garrett back for Sableye the Mind Sculptor with another standard deck tech. Been a while since I've done one of these, so I hope you guys enjoy it. This deck is inspired by Sam Black's previous Pro Tour deck, Abzan Tokens, as it is an Abzan Tokens deck itself. This deck, however, obviously plays a few more cats, and it just plays a lot of new cards from Hour of Devastation. So, let's, without further ado, hop into the deck. First off, we got our lands, Forest, Swamp, Plains, obviously needed for an Abzan deck. Evolving Wilds will help us fix across all three of our colors, and I think it's very important in a deck with this many colors that's trying to hit this many different types of land. Then we've got Westvale Abbey. Westvale Abbey is going to let us sack out our board for a big old 9/8. This is definitely going to be something that's very attainable within a tokens deck, obviously. We've got our two fast lands, Blooming Marsh and Concealed Courtyard, which are the only fast lands available. I'd play more if I had them. And then we've got Scattered Grove, which is our cycling land for the deck. And this will be providing us our green and white, obviously, but cycling lands I think are very good right now, and just being able to cycle away the land and draw a new card is huge in a deck where, you only want a very limited number of lands. Nobody wants to talk about lands, though. Let's move right into the board. Starting with creatures, we got our Sacred Cat. Sacred Cat is a 1/1 lifelink for 1 that can be embalmed for 1, so you can get a 1/1 lifelinker into a 1/1 lifelinking token. And then we got Thrabes as well. Thrabes is just going to make us our clue, lets us draw a card, and gives us a 1/2/1 turn 1. This is obviously one of the better 1-drops right now. I mean, I'm running more cats because it's relevant to this deck, but definitely don't want to underplay the value of Thraben Inspector. Next we have our Anointed Priest. Anointed Priest will just gain life whenever we get a token. It will itself become a token eventually when it dies due to Embalm, and this just kind of helps us stay alive against the very prevalent right now red decks. It's a huge blocker, 1/3, easily comes down, stonewalls the 2/1s for 1, and it will just also be gaining us life over the whole game. So it's very good against that deck, and I do think it's a main boardable card because of that Embalm. Next up, we have our kitties. The reason that this is a cat deck. First up is Pride Sovereign. Pride Sovereign is a 2/2 for 3. It gets 1+1+ for each cat you control, and if you pay a white and tap him, you get 2 1/1 lifelink cats. Lifelink cats, of course, great against mono red. You might notice a trend with this deck. Although there is no way to untap the exerted Pride Sovereign, I definitely think 2 cats every 2 turns is a very good rate, and he actually gets big very fast in this deck. This is a huge threat, a lot more than I ever expected it to be. And then we also have Regal Caracal, the cat lord introduced in Amonkhet. 3 white for a cat that gives all of your other cats +1/+1 in lifelink, and when it enters, it makes 2 1/1 cats with lifelink. So this will definitely help grow your Pride Sovereign, and it will just also be a huge amount of power and toughness to dump out of the board depending on the situation you're in. So let's get on to the non-creature permanents. Starting with our mana play, Cryptolith Rite. We're running 3 of these. That's about the right number to draw only 1. This will definitely punish you sometimes when you don't get it, and sometimes it'll get you 2, but generally I think 3 is the right number. So that's what we're playing. What this lets us do is just play our Caracals earlier, play our 4-drops, and be able to exert our Pride Sovereign on the same turn, stuff like that. You definitely do need the early mana in this deck. It's a huge card to help us win. Hidden Stockpile will let us replace some of our tokens as they die, and it gives us an option to scry through our deck over time. I think this is a very crucial card in this deck as well, because it combos very well with a card that is coming up. And then we got 1 Stasis Snare, which is just neat little removal. We're already running all of the better removal spell, so this is the one that makes it in. Then we have the key card, the card that actually makes this deck a deck, Anointed Procession. If something would put 1 token into play, puts in 2 tokens. So that is very, very helpful for our hidden stockpiles because they actually go positive if you lose a token. And Regal Caracal now puts in a total of 7 power for 5. Pride Sovereign is going to be adding 4 tokens every time you exert it. This is just a huge card. It makes all of our other cards work. Definitely the most important card in this deck. Now moving on to the non-creature, non-land spells. We only got 2. Anguished Unmaking as a complete playset because this card is so good. I understand that it's very hard to play this against the mono red decks, but it's so good against every other deck that I felt that it had to make the board. I can definitely see taking out some of these for Stasis Snare looking at the current state of the meta, though. And then our last card, Driven to Despair, also a playset. I don't know if this is the right choice. You might want to run a few less of these for more interaction or more token generators like Servo Exhibition, but I definitely feel like it is. It just so often ends up being you draw 4, they discard 4. This card has worked for me all the time, and honestly, I can't overstate how good the Menace from Despair is. If you don't know, Driven to Despair, it is 1 in a green to give your creatures trample, and whenever they deal damage this turn to a player, you draw a card. The flashback side is Despair, 1 in a black. Creatures gain Menace, and whenever they deal damage, the opponent will discard a card. This has just been huge for me every time I've played it. It has been a blowout, and it refills your hand. That's insane. I love this card. Can't overstate how good it is. Probably that rant was a little bit too long. Anyway, sideboard. I've gone with the kind of black disruption here. We've got Lay Bare the Heart, which will let you strip out important cards from your opponent's hand. Notably, does not hit Hazaret. Dispossess as a 1-of, and then 2 Lost Legacy to make up for that. You're going to be bringing in some of these sometimes, some of them the rest of the time usually. There are usually dead cards in your main board too. I hate to say that, but against non-aggressive decks, for instance, Anointed Priest kind of sucks. Against aggressive decks, Anguished Unmaking, not the best card. You know, there are definitely cards that you will be taking out for cards like these. And then lastly, we got 4 Mega Stand. Now, 4 Mega Stand, that seems like a lot, but I will not tell you how many times I've lost to board wipes with this deck, and Mega Stand has always been able to bail you out if you have it in hand. There's definitely a lot of times when I have been thankful for this card. I understand it looks janky at first. All I'm saying is give it a chance. Prowling Serpapard, good against control, and Dusk to Dawn is good against decks that are going to have blockers, you know, the more mid-rangey decks. Dusk Dawn will help you clear out their board and get through with your attackers. So that has been the deck. Please subscribe for more. Follow me on Twitter at SableEyeTheJace. Other than that, peace out.